I'm Oscar Isaka. I'm the Senior Director Analyst in the Gartner Security and Risk Management practice. I've been in the industry for over 20 years and various security and risk management practices, including application security, security program strategy, and others.
Hi, nice to meet you. Has the organization navigated an increasingly complex threat landscape? What do you see as a top challenges that information security officers currently face?
Right. We could be talking about this all day, about the challenges CISOs feel today, but I think one of the ones that we've identified it's regarding to their own effectiveness and how do they see themselves as CISOs and chief officer. And we found out from a recent study that we did, it's called the CISO effectiveness, about 4 characteristics that CISOs have to adopt or have to focus on to be effective in their jobs, right? The 4 characteristics that we talk about are, functional leadership, how they lead the information security company, the information security organization, service delivery, how they deliver the cybersecurity services to the organization, the scaled governance, so how do they enable distributed decision-making and distributed security over the edge of the organizations, and finally, enterprise responsiveness, how do they sensitize the importance of cybersecurity across the organization, right? So if we talk about the effectiveness of the role from a personal perspective, these are all characteristics of an effective CISO. And I think that's important because a lot of us come from operational and technical functions, right? And it is always good to look at how well we behave as a chief officer in the board.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. My second question would be, can you elaborate on some of the prevailing myths in cybersecurity that deter the organization from realizing the true value of their security measures?
Absolutely. So the first one we covered this in our keynote yesterday. The first one is more risk analysis equal more protection. So we're basically saying that we are very in love with the fact that the more we can put data into paper, the more protected we'll be. Reality that doesn't really drive a lot of action, right? I think we had a survey about 2 years ago when we asked CISOs about cyber risk quantification specifically, how much of them think that drives action, and only 34% of them actually found that drives action. So that is a myth, right? So more risk analysis doesn't lead to more protection. It's how do you do with the information, right? And how it is that you need to cookie cutter that information so it drives actionability faster. And there are a couple of ways that we talk about this and how to do this. One of them is what we call outcome-driven metrics, right? And initiatives like what we call the Tapestry framework, which talks about the risks and the influence on the outside world to the security the security of the enterprises in a collaborative way, so we can have those insights quicker and drive actionability. So that's one. Number 2 is more technology drives more protection, right? And I always joke with clients that I don't advise you to buy any more screwdrivers unless you really, really know what the type of screw you need to tighten, right? So we are very much let's say, enrolled with the idea that there's a tool for everything, and the talent crunch that we live in now, 3.9 million people, a shortage, according to IC Squared study, that tools are going to make our jobs a little easier, a little faster, a little better. So tools doesn't equal more protection. It's what we call minimum effective tool set. So understanding exactly what the tools that we already have do and how they work together to provide better protection. The last 2 ones are more cybersecurity professionals equal more protection. We all want to have more people always, right? The numbers on talent that I just shared show that. But it's how well we distribute the decision-making across the business to enable agility and speed, so what we call minimum effective expertise. So building the cybersecurity expertise on the employees is is key, so we don't have to police all their work all the time, right? And the last one is more control equal more protection. We don't want to put more controls. We want to make controls easier for the users. There is a number that the 93% of interviewed employees, they take insecure decisions for their own organization, knowing that they are insecure. And the reason for that is speed and agility. Right? They see cybersecurity and controls as a way that prevents us to deliver something faster to business. So that's why leveraging user experience and working with them to co-create some of those things lead to what we call minimal effective friction. Right? So the four are more risk analysis, and the solution is minimal effective insight. The more technology equal better protection myth is minimal effective tool set, so the minimum amount of tools to deliver the value. More cybersecurity professionals equal more protection. No, the minimal effective expertise is what leads to that. And more controls equal better protection, and the solution for that is minimal effective friction. So what are the least amount of friction I can put into the processes so I can have more security?
My third question would be, how can the company this lead to more effective cybersecurity strategies?
Absolutely. So, take for one of the myths, for example, the more cybersecurity people or professionals equal more protection. One of the case studies that we shared during the keynote was from Johnson & Johnson, that they flexibilized the way they do security and risk assessments for their employees, right? So allowing them to enable more speed and doing those in a self-serve kind of portal way to perform their risk assessments and understand what the risks that they're dealing with. The result of that is 100,000 new initiatives that cybersecurity enabled for the business faster, easier, quicker, and without adding any additional FTs. So you can see there that in enabling that speed, enabling that judgment, enabling that ability for them to make those decisions allows them to do that.
Okay. My another question would be, employee awareness is crucial in preventing cyber threats. How can organizations cultivate a culture of cybersecurity awareness among the employees, and what strategies are effective in implementing insecure behaviors that may possess security risks?
Like we just talked about, right? I think one of the main strategies is understanding that simple awareness is not enough. Just telling them what not to click and throwing them into traps, it doesn't work that way, right? I think it's working with them to sensitize first. So they need to be sensible to the problem that security is a problem, and then use that to educate later. And then after you've gone through that stage, co-creation, user experience, make the secure path the easy path. Or vice versa, make the easy path the secure path, so they don't have to evade controls or feel that they're being dragged down or feel all that friction. That is the way that you work with them to enable the business to or the users to think that, well, security is not here to stop me; it's here to help me get where I need to be in the secure way. I think that's one of the big challenges that cybersecurity needs to face and has been facing over the past years. Right?
The cybersecurity skills shortages is a widely acknowledged challenge. Do you think that increasing the number of cybersecurity professionals within the organization contribute to more robust and resilient defense against the evolving cyber threats?
So, nobody will turn down more security people, right? The problem is that we cannot just fabricate 3.9 million security people to be enough for everyone. And even if we could, I don't think that more people in itself make for a better, more resilient organization. It's how you will use those people and how you employ those in the processes of the organization, so they each person understands their role in what we call distributed risk decision making. Right? You're never going to have enough security people to police everyone without being a drag or without all the downfalls. So I think that's the myth that we talked about, myth number 3 on the previous keynote, that more cyber pros equal better protection. No, we should strive for what we call a minimal effective expertise.
Okay. My another question would be, often there is a perception that cybersecurity is a business of business eligibility, how the organization align cybersecurity strategies with broader business objectives to ensure the harmonious relationship between security and the organizational goals.
Sure. I think the first step, and maybe the key one, is really understanding what business objectives are. We often come from a security engineering background where we are technical people, boots on the ground, performing operations, and we get to the CISO position without really understanding what a CISO really means, or a CISO. Understanding that a chief officer is a business leader that needs to understand and be able to talk business strategy and business objectives, and not security engineering and technical terms and all that kind of stuff. Information security is just the domain expertise of the CISO. So understanding what chief officer means before will allow you to then understand what the business strategy is, where the company is going. So then you can influence the information security part to identify the risks that may prevent your enterprise from achieving those goals.
Okay. So the last question would be,
Yep.
effectively measuring the success of cybersecurity programs is challenging. What key programs indicators do you recommend for the organization to build the effectiveness of their cybersecurity measures, and how can they continuously improve based on this matrix?
Absolutely. So metrics is I'm not going to say a myth, but it's a misunderstood concept in cybersecurity oftentimes. With the same reason that I talked about, like we're so focused on operations a lot of times, we need to tie metrics to business outcomes. And that's what we propose in what we call the outcome-driven metrics from Gartner. So outcome-driven metrics ties specific business outcomes to metrics that we identify actionability based on what we want to do as part of the cybersecurity activities, right? And one example of this is, let's say, one of the ones that is very misunderstood is patching cadence. How much patching am I doing, or how often am I doing for my environment? So let's say I go to my board and I said, I applied 35,000 patches in the last month. That doesn't really translate into any actionable insight because it's just a number. There's no context, right? It lacks the context to say, what is the criticality of those assets? Is there any critical data on them? Are they business critical? And so on and so forth. So a better metric, according to the outcome-driven metrics, is how much does it take, or what's the lead time for me to patch critical systems? And that becomes a much more actionable conversation, because then I can say, I usually take 10 days to patch my critical systems. And the business can say, I don't like that. I want that to be 24 hours. And then you can then go back and say, okay, I can do that, but I would need 3 more people on my team plus this much money to be able to enable that. And that conversation then leads to a much more awareness of the situation by the board, because it has impact, it has risk, and it has cost on it. And that's what boards are used to be talking about, and not just, I stopped this many vulnerabilities, or I blocked this, or I installed these patches, and so on and so forth. So outcome-driven metrics is the way to make KPIs more actionable, cybersecurity-wise, for the boards and the organizations.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.